Imagine running from a past that refuses to let you go. Imagine falling in love with the one man who could either save you or destroy you. But what if everything you thought you knew was a lie? On a luxury cruise, a millionaire CEO and a struggling single mother cross paths in the most unexpected way. But as love begins to bloom, dark secrets emerge. A dangerous man is watching. A child is stolen. And a shocking betrayal threatens to tear everything apart. Will love survive? Or will the past consume them both? Stay tuned because what happens next will leave you speechless. Let's dive into this thrilling story. Millionaire CEO falls hopelessly in love with single mother on a cruise, and was shocked when. Buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. The sun was high in the sky. The warm breeze carried the salty smell of the ocean. Seagulls flew above, making soft noises as they looked for food. The streets of Miami, Florida, were busy with cars, buses, and people walking with their suitcases. But near the port, a different kind of excitement filled the air. A giant cruise ship stood tall, floating on the water like a golden castle. It was big, shiny, and beautiful. People were gathered, waiting to enter. Some were dressed in summer clothes, sunglasses on their faces, big hats on their heads. Families laughed. Couples held hands. Friends took pictures. Everyone was excited. Among them was Jamal Adiwale. He did not laugh. He did not take pictures. He stood tall, serious, and quiet, looking at the ship as if he had seen 1,000 just like it before. Jamal was not an ordinary man. He was one of the richest men in New York City. At 36 years old, he had built one of the biggest software companies in the country. People knew his name. His company made computers and mobile apps that people used every day. He had started small but worked very hard. Now, he was a billionaire. He wore a white shirt, clean and perfect. His black trousers were neatly pressed. His gold wristwatch shined in the sunlight. His dark sunglasses covered his sharp, intelligent eyes. People looked at him as he passed. Some whispered his name. Some wanted to take pictures, but no one dared to stop him. A man like Jamal was used to attention. It did not bother him. He had learned long ago that people only cared about his money. They smiled at him, but deep down, they only wanted something from him. Trusting people was dangerous. Beside him, his assistant, David, carried his suitcase. David was always with him, handling his bookings, meetings, and schedules. He spoke to the ship workers, making sure everything was perfect for Jamal. Nothing could go wrong. Jamal walked up the stairs and stepped onto the ship. Inside, the cruise was even more beautiful. The floor was made of shining marble. The walls had golden designs. Big chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Waiters in white uniforms walked around, serving drinks in tall glasses. A soft piano played in the background. People looked happy. Some sat in soft chairs, drinking and talking. Some stood near the glass windows, watching the endless blue ocean. Others checked their rooms, excited for the long trip ahead. Jamal felt nothing. This was just another business trip. A place to rest for a few days before returning to work. He did not come here to make friends. He did not come here for fun. His life was simple: work, make money, stay alone. Once upon a time, he had believed in love. But love had failed him. Many years ago, he had loved a woman with all his heart. She was beautiful, kind, and smart. He trusted her. He planned a future with her. But she had betrayed him. She had loved his money, not him. Since then, Jamal had closed his heart. He had no time for love, no time for relationships. He was too rich, too busy, too careful. David, his assistant, led him to his private suite. It was on the highest floor of the cruise, a large room with a balcony facing the ocean. Inside, the bed was covered in white sheets. A table was filled with fresh fruits, chocolates, and drinks. A large TV was mounted on the wall. Everything was perfect. Just how he liked it. Jamal took off his sunglasses and walked to the glass door, looking at the sea. The waves moved slowly, dancing under the sun. The ship would leave soon, heading towards the Caribbean. He sighed. Another trip. Another place. Another lonely journey. Little did he know, this cruise would change his life forever. The wind was warm, and the sea was calm. The big cruise ship was ready to leave the port. People were excited, taking pictures and talking happily. Among them was Amara Okafor, holding the small hand of her 5-year-old son, Malik. Amara looked around in wonder. She had never seen anything so beautiful before. The ship was huge, like a floating palace. Everything shined, the floors, the walls, the golden decorations. People around her looked rich. They wore expensive clothes, carried fancy suitcases, and spoke with confidence. But Amara was not rich. She was just a struggling single mother trying to survive in Chicago, Illinois. She had dark, beautiful skin, and her hair was neatly braided. She wore a simple blue dress, clean but not expensive. Malik wore a tiny white shirt and jeans, his shoes a little old but still neat. His big, brown eyes were full of excitement. This trip was a miracle. Amara worked as an accountant for a big company in Chicago. Her job was hard, and the salary was very small. She barely made enough money to pay rent, buy food, and take care of Malik. Life had been a struggle ever since Malik was born. Being a single mother was not easy. She had come to America from Africa many years ago, hoping for a better life. But life had been hard. She had no family in the US, no one to help her. She worked long hours, came home tired, and did everything alone. But no matter how hard life was, she never gave up. One day, at work, she saw a flyer for a company contest. The prize was an all-expenses-paid luxury cruise. It was for hard-working employees who had never taken a vacation. She had never won anything in her life. But something told her to try. A few weeks later, she got an email. She had won. At first, she couldn't believe it. It felt like a dream. She had to read the email 3 times before she believed it was real. She almost said no to the trip. How could she go on a fancy cruise? She didn't belong with rich people. She didn't even have nice clothes. But when she looked at Malik's face, she knew she had to go. Malik was only 5 years old, but he had already seen too much struggle. He had never been to the beach. He had never been on a plane or a ship. He deserved something good. And so, for him, she packed their small suitcases and took a flight to Miami. Now, standing near the ship, she took a deep breath. She was really here. The line was moving fast. Soon, it was their turn to enter. A smiling cruise worker checked her name on a list and gave her a key card. Malik pulled at her dress, his little eyes full of excitement. Amara smiled, holding his hand tightly. This trip was for him. She stepped onto the ship, not knowing that this journey would change everything. The ship had finally left the port, moving smoothly over the ocean. The sky was bright blue, the sea endless and beautiful. The air smelled fresh, and a soft wind made everything feel peaceful. Inside the cruise, everything was grand. There were golden chandeliers, long hallways, soft music playing in the background. Waiters in clean white uniforms walked around, holding silver trays with drinks and snacks. Guests chatted, laughed, and enjoyed the luxury around them. Jamal Adiwale sat in a quiet section of the cruise, sipping a glass of chilled water. He was dressed in a dark designer suit, his expensive watch shining under the lights. His assistant, David, stood nearby, checking his phone. For the first time in months, Jamal was away from meetings, away from work. He was on this trip to relax before his company's next big merger. It was supposed to be a peaceful break, no business calls, no stress, no distractions. On the other side of the cruise, Amara and Malik walked hand in hand, exploring their new world. Malik's eyes were wide with excitement. Everything felt magical to him. The shining floors, the beautiful lights, the endless rows of delicious food. He had never seen so much food in one place. Amara held his hand tightly, her heart still nervous. This world was different from hers. People around her looked rich and confident. She felt small among them. But she kept reminding herself this trip was for Malik. They arrived at the buffet section, where a long table was filled with all kinds of food: fresh fruits, cakes, bread, roasted chicken, shrimp, rice, pasta, and colorful drinks. Malik's little hands reached for a glass of orange juice. He took a big sip and smiled. Amara picked up a plate and started serving food for both of them. But as she turned around, her elbow accidentally hit a tray on the table. The juice glass tipped over, straight onto a man's suit. Gasps filled the air. People turned to look. Amara froze. The tall man in the dark suit looked down at his stained white shirt, his sharp eyes narrowing. Jamal Adiwale. The expensive suit ruined. The cold silence between them was heavy. The orange liquid spread fast, soaking into the fabric. Amara's heart raced. She knew the suit cost more than her entire salary. She grabbed a napkin quickly, her hands shaking. Jamal's face was unreadable. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His eyes locked on Amara's, deep and serious. People around them whispered, watching the scene unfold. Amara felt small and embarrassed. She wanted to disappear. She opened her mouth to speak, to apologize, but the words refused to come out. Jamal exhaled slowly. Without a word, he took the napkin from her shaking hands, wiped his shirt once, and then walked away. Amara stood still, her face hot with shame. Malik tugged at her dress. She looked down at him, forcing a small smile. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. But inside, she knew she had just made a terrible first impression on the richest man on the ship. And somehow, this was only the beginning. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden reflections over the calm sea. The cruise ship moved smoothly through the water, carrying its passengers on a journey filled with excitement, laughter, and adventure. But for Jamal Adiwale, something was different. He had been irritated at first. The orange juice spilling on his suit had left a bad taste in his mouth. He hated being the center of attention for something so careless. He had expected the woman, Amara, to be flustered and apologetic, maybe even try to use his wealth as an excuse to introduce herself. But she didn't. She had avoided him. Instead of trying to talk to him or make excuses, she had simply disappeared into the crowd with her little boy. That was unusual. Most people, especially women, would have seized the opportunity to introduce themselves, maybe try to impress him. But not her. Jamal's curiosity grew when he saw her later that evening, sitting near the children's play area. She wasn't sitting with the other wealthy passengers. She wasn't drinking expensive wine or laughing at the bar. Instead, she was watching over her son, Malik, who ran happily among the other children. Jamal stood near the deck, arms folded, observing quietly. Amara had a softness in her eyes when she looked at her son. A warmth he hadn't seen in a long time. Despite how tired she looked, there was so much love and patience in the way she cared for the boy. And then something else caught his attention. Malik ran too fast and fell on the floor, scraping his knee. Before Jamal could even react, Amara was already there. She knelt, checking his knee, speaking softly to calm him down. She wiped his tears with the sleeve of her own dress, gently rubbing his back until his sobs turned into sniffles. She didn't panic. She didn't yell. She didn't complain. Jamal had seen many rich women who barely looked at their kids, leaving everything to their nannies. But this woman? She had no help, no husband, no one, but she handled everything with strength. Something in his chest stirred. A quiet admiration. The next morning, Jamal found himself walking through the ship's deck, enjoying the fresh ocean breeze. And then he saw her again. Amara stood near the railing, her hair moving with the wind, looking out at the sea. She wasn't holding a phone. She wasn't taking pictures or scrolling through social media like everyone else. She was simply watching, thinking, feeling. He walked past her without a word, but something about her presence stayed with him. Later that evening, their paths crossed again. Jamal sat at one of the private lounges, enjoying a quiet drink. The room was filled with rich couples and businessmen, dressed in their finest, engaged in laughter and meaningless small talk. And then, she entered. Amara looked different that night. She wasn't in an expensive dress, but her simple white gown made her stand out even more. She wasn't wearing heavy makeup, yet her natural beauty was impossible to ignore. She didn't belong in this world of wealth and power. And yet, she carried herself with a quiet elegance, as if she had nothing to prove to anyone. Malik wasn't with her. She was alone, probably taking a short break from her son. She found a seat in the corner, away from the noise, and ordered something simple, a glass of juice. Jamal didn't realize he was staring until David, his assistant, leaned over and muttered, "Sir, you're looking at her again." Jamal ignored the comment, but deep inside, he knew it was true. That night, when the stars filled the sky, Jamal took a slow walk on the open deck. The cool wind was refreshing, and the sound of the waves was peaceful. And then, he saw her again. Amara stood alone by the railing, her arms folded, her face lost in thought. The ocean stretched before her, endless and calm. This time, he didn't walk away. He stopped a few feet away, watching her for a moment. She looked tired but strong. Alone, yet not broken. There was something about her that pulled him in. A woman like her, why was she alone? What was her story? For the first time in a long time, Jamal felt something unexpected. A need to know more. The sun was setting, casting shades of orange and pink over the wide ocean. The cruise ship continued its smooth journey, and guests enjoyed the cool evening breeze. Laughter, music, and the soft clinking of glasses filled the air. Amara walked across the deck, holding Malik's hand. She was trying to enjoy the moment, but a strange feeling crawled over her skin. Someone was watching her. She could feel it, a heavy stare, lingering for too long. She looked over her shoulder, scanning the people around her. Families sat at tables, couples took pictures near the railing, waiters carried trays of drinks. Everything seemed normal. And then, she saw him. A man stood in the distance, near one of the entrance doors. He wasn't eating, drinking, or talking to anyone. He was just standing there, looking at her. His eyes were dark, unreadable. His face, familiar but distant. Amara's heart skipped a beat. Something about him felt wrong. She gripped Malik's hand tighter and quickly led him away. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was imagining things. But deep inside, she knew she wasn't. Someone was watching her. And it wasn't for a good reason. The next evening, the ship's grand ballroom was lit up with golden chandeliers. It was an exclusive gala night, only for the wealthiest passengers. The men were in black tuxedos, the women in expensive gowns, their diamonds glittering under the lights. And standing in the center of it all was Olivia Sterling. Tall, blonde, and dangerously beautiful, Olivia moved through the crowd like a queen. She was one of the richest socialites in Los Angeles, known for her charm and her cold heart. She had once been engaged to Jamal Adiwale. And she was here to win him back. Jamal stood at the far end of the ballroom, sipping a drink. He had no interest in the party, but he knew he had to make an appearance. He was used to these kinds of events, fake smiles, shallow conversations, people pretending to care. But tonight was different. His eyes kept searching the room, not for business partners, not for investors, but for one person. Amara. She wasn't supposed to be here. The gala was for the elite, the kind of event where money spoke louder than anything else. But for some reason, he wanted to see her. And then, he saw Olivia instead. Her red dress clung to her body as she walked toward him, her lips curling into a smile. "Jamal, darling." Her voice was sweet, but Jamal knew better. He had loved her once. Thought she was the one. But Olivia had only loved his wealth, his power, his name. She touched his arm, leaning closer. "I missed you." Jamal took a step back. "What are you doing here, Olivia?" She laughed lightly. "Oh, come on. You know me. I go where the elite go." And when I heard you'd be on this cruise, I thought why not have a little reunion? He clenched his jaw. A reunion was the last thing he wanted. But Olivia wasn't the type to give up. And she had already planned something cruel. Amara had no idea how she ended up in the gala. One of the staff members had given her a special invitation, saying it was a guest surprise. She had hesitated, but she didn't want to seem rude. So, she wore the only decent dress she had. A simple navy blue gown, and made her way inside. She should have known it was a trap. The moment she stepped into the ballroom, eyes turned toward her. Rich women whispered. Some smirked. Others looked at her like she didn't belong. And standing in the middle of them all was Olivia. "Oh, look who decided to join us," Olivia said loudly, making sure everyone heard her. Amara's body froze. She had seen women like Olivia before. Powerful. Untouchable. Cruel. "Tell me, dear, where did you get that dress? A thrift store? Or did you sew it yourself?" Laughter. Loud, cruel, humiliating. Amara's face burned, her hands trembling. She wasn't stupid. She knew what was happening. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had sent that invitation on purpose. And now she was standing in a room full of people who thought she was nothing. She swallowed, her throat tight. She wanted to leave. But her legs wouldn't move. And then a familiar voice cut through the room. "That's enough." The laughter stopped. Jamal's deep voice silenced everyone. He stepped forward, his sharp eyes locking onto Olivia's. Cold. Unforgiving. "What are you doing, Olivia?" His voice was dangerously calm. Olivia blinked innocently. "Oh, Jamal, I was just joking. We were having a little fun." Jamal's eyes darkened. Humiliating someone is not fun. Olivia's smile faded. "You're defending her?" "A woman who, that's enough, Olivia." The room was dead silent. Amara's heart pounded. She had never needed anyone to fight for her. But right now, she was grateful. Jamal turned to her. His eyes softened just a little. "Come with me." And in that moment, Amara realized something. This wasn't just about a ruined dress. This wasn't just about Olivia. Something had shifted. Jamal was no longer just watching her from a distance. He was standing beside her. The night air was cold, carrying the soft sounds of waves against the ship. The grand ballroom, with its golden lights and laughter, was far behind them. Amara followed Jamal silently as he led her to the open deck, where the moon shone over the vast ocean. She had been holding in her breath ever since the humiliation at the gala. She had never felt so small, so unwanted. Edition. But Jamal had stepped in. He had stopped Olivia. He had defended her. And now, here they were alone, with nothing but the night between them. Jamal leaned on the railing, his strong hands gripping the cool metal. His dark eyes studied her, searching for something deeper. There was concern in his gaze. Not pity. Not curiosity. But something else. Something dangerous and personal. "Who are you really, Amara?" The question hit her like a wave. Amara's heart raced. She had kept this secret for so long. She had hidden the truth even from herself, pretending it didn't matter, pretending she could escape it. But she couldn't run forever. She looked away, her fingers twisting together. The weight of her past pressed down on her chest. She closed her eyes for a second, then exhaled. It was time. "I wasn't supposed to be on this cruise," Amara said finally, her voice quiet but steady. Jamal listened, his eyes never leaving her face. "I won the ticket in a contest. But even after I won, I thought about not coming. Because I knew he might find me." Jamal's jaw tightened. "He?" She took a shaky breath. "Malik's father is dangerous. Powerful. The kind of man who doesn't let go. Jamal's eyes darkened. The protective part of him rose like fire. She continued. I met him years ago. I was young, naive. I thought he loved me. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. But I was nothing more than a possession to him. And when I found out I was pregnant, I knew I had to run. Jamal's fingers curled into fists. He had met men like that before. Men who thought they owned the world. Men who thought they owned people. Amara swallowed hard. I left in the middle of the night. I had nothing. No money, no plan. Just a bus ticket and the clothes on my back. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. I changed my name, I disappeared. I started over. For me, for Malik. Jamal's chest rose and fell, his mind turning fast. A woman on the run. A child who didn't know his father. A past that was chasing her. And suddenly, it all made sense. The fear in her eyes. The way she always looked over her shoulder. The man she had seen watching her from a distance. Jamal clenched his jaw. That wasn't just any man. He was already here. And if that man was looking for Amara, this cruise was no longer safe. The ship was quiet that night. Most passengers were asleep, their rooms filled with the soft hum of the ocean. But Amara couldn't close her eyes. She sat at the edge of the bed in her small cabin, staring at the door as if someone might burst through at any moment. Because she knew who was watching her. Victor Kane. The name alone sent chills down her spine. He had found her. For years, she had lived in fear, always looking over her shoulder. She had moved from place to place, making sure no one could trace her. But no matter how far she ran, Victor always seemed one step behind. And now, here he was. On the same ship. Amara's fingers gripped the bedsheets. She glanced at Malik, peacefully asleep, his small chest rising and falling. He had no idea of the danger lurking nearby. She couldn't let Victor take him. She wouldn't. The next morning, Amara stepped onto the deck, her heart pounding. The sun was bright, but it couldn't chase away the darkness in her mind. She turned her head slowly, scanning the crowd. And then, she saw him. Victor Kane. Dressed in a crisp suit, standing near the bar with a glass of whiskey in his hand. His cold, dark eyes locked onto hers. A smirk touched his lips. Amara's breath caught in her throat. He looked the same. The same powerful stance, the same sharp jawline, the same terrifying presence. But it wasn't just his looks that scared her. It was who he was. A criminal. A businessman. A man who took whatever he wanted. And right now, he wanted Malik. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Running again, Amara? Her body stiffened. Slowly, she turned back. The other passengers laughed and talked around them, clueless to the nightmare unfolding. She forced herself to stand tall. Stay away from me, Victor. He chuckled, taking a slow sip of his drink. You still have that fire. I always liked that about you. She clenched her fists. What do you want? His smile faded. His expression turned cold. You know what I want. His eyes darkened. You stole my son, Amara. And I've come to take him back. Jamal watched from the upper deck, his sharp eyes locked on the conversation happening below. He had sensed something was wrong from the moment Amara told him about her past. And now, seeing the way she stood, stiff and scared, he knew this was the man. The man she had run from. The man who wanted to take her son. Jamal's fists tightened. He had dealt with powerful men before. Billionaires. Politicians. CEOs. But Victor Kane was different. Jamal had heard of him. Everyone had. A dangerous businessman from Houston, Texas. A man whose name was whispered in secret meetings. He was connected to illegal dealings, money laundering, threats, disappearances. Victor Kane was a man you didn't cross. And now, Jamal had no choice but to cross him. That night, Amara stayed locked in her cabin, her heart pounding with fear. She knew Victor wasn't bluffing. He never made empty threats. He would take Malik by force if he had to. A sudden knock on the door startled her. She hesitated. Another knock. Her hand shook as she reached for the handle. When she opened it, her breath caught. Jamal stood there. Tall. Calm. Serious. Let me help you. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I know who he is. I know what he's capable of. And I know you can't fight him alone. His voice was firm, but there was something else in his tone. Something protective. Amara swallowed hard. She had never had anyone stand beside her. I don't know what to do, Jamal, she admitted in a whisper. His gaze softened just a little. Then let's figure it out together. At that moment, something shifted between them. For the first time in a long time, Amara didn't feel alone. The night was quiet, the ship's grand lights reflecting on the dark ocean. But inside Jamal's private suite, a storm was brewing. His assistant, David, stood in front of him, holding a confidential file. His face was tense, his voice measured. Sir, you need to see this. Jamal took the file, flipping it open. The first thing he saw was a name. Amara Okafor. His chest tightened. Line by line, he read through the shocking information. 4 years ago, Amara worked for his own company in Chicago. She wasn't just an accountant, she had access to top-secret financial information, high-level data, and company security codes. And then, she vanished. No resignation letter. No warning. She disappeared overnight. Jamal's fingers gripped the file tightly. His mind raced. The clues started adding up. She never mentioned working for him before. She had disappeared around the same time money had gone missing in one of his company's Chicago accounts. And now, she had suddenly appeared again on this very cruise. A heavy silence filled the room. David exhaled. Sir, is she using you? Could she be running from something she did? Jamal shut the file, his jaw tightening. He had trusted her. He had felt something for her. But now, was Amara really who she said she was? Or had he just let a thief into his life? The next morning, Amara woke up feeling lighter than she had in years. For the first time, she had told someone the truth. She had let someone in. And Jamal, he had offered to help. She smiled faintly as she looked at Malik, still peacefully asleep. Maybe, just maybe, things were changing. But when she stepped outside her cabin, she felt it. Something was wrong. Jamal was different. His eyes were colder, distant. His once warm glances had turned into silent stares. He didn't stop to talk to her on the deck. He didn't acknowledge her when she passed by the dining hall. Had she done something wrong? Her stomach tightened. Something had shifted. But what? Then, it happened. She was walking past the private lounge area when she overheard David's voice, low but clear. She's hiding something, sir. The file proves it. She worked for you before. She had access to money. And she disappeared. Amara froze. Her heart pounded. Jamal's voice came next, calm but dangerously cold. If she lied about this, what else is she lying about? A lump formed in Amara's throat. She took a step back, her breath shaky. He knew. And just like that, the fragile trust between them began to shatter. The sun had begun to set, painting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink. The cruise ship continued its smooth journey across the vast ocean, but inside Jamal's private suite, a storm was brewing. Amara stood in the middle of the room, her hands shaking. She had been summoned here, but the moment she stepped inside, she felt the weight of his silence. Jamal sat near the window, his broad shoulders tense, his hands clasped together. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, they were different. Colder. Distant. The same eyes that once looked at her with curiosity and warmth now held something else. Doubt. Hurt. Anger. Finally, he stood, slowly turning toward her. His voice was low but sharp. "Who are you, Amara?" Her stomach tightened. She had never heard him speak to her like that before. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay calm. "Jamal, what's wrong?" He exhaled, running a hand over his face before tossing a file onto the table. "You tell me." She hesitated before stepping forward. Her hands trembled as she opened the file, and then everything inside her collapsed. Her name. Her past records. Her time working at Adiwale Tech in Chicago. Amara's breath caught in her throat. He knew. Jamal's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "You worked for me before. You had access to my company's financial information. And then you disappeared." His jaw clenched. "Why?" Amara's hands gripped the papers. "It's not what you think." "I didn't." "Then tell me what to think, Amara." His voice rose slightly, frustration slipping through. "Because right now, all I see is a woman who lied. A woman who ran away and somehow ended up on the same cruise as me, acting like we were strangers. A woman who," he exhaled sharply, shaking his head. Amara felt the walls closing in. "I didn't steal from your company, Jamal. I swear." "Then what happened?" She opened her mouth, but the words wouldn't come. How could she explain? How could she tell him that she had run not from money, but from a man so dangerous that he had ruined her life? Jamal's stare hardened. "You're still hiding something." Before Amara could speak, the door swung open. Olivia Sterling walked in. Tall. Beautiful. Dangerous. Her red dress clung to her body, and a wicked smile danced on her lips. "Oh, Jamal, I hate to interrupt, but I think you should know the full story." Amara's stomach dropped. Jamal's expression darkened. "What are you doing here, Olivia?" Olivia walked forward slowly, her heels clicking against the floor. She was enjoying this. "I did a little digging, darling." She smirked, holding up her phone. "And guess what I found? Your dear Amara isn't just a liar. She's also been very, very close to someone you might know." Amara felt her body go numb. "No. Not this. Not now." Olivia turned her phone toward Jamal. A picture appeared on the screen. Amara. Standing next to Victor Kane. Jamal's face hardened. "What is this?" Olivia's smirk deepened. Victor Kane. The notorious businessman. The criminal. The man who has more enemies than friends. And guess what? She tilted her head. He's also the father of her child. Silence. A deadly silence. Jamal's entire body stiffened. His gaze snapped back to Amara. "Is this true?" His voice was low, dangerous. Amara's hands clenched into fists. Her breath came in short, shallow bursts. She had spent years running from Victor. She had tried to erase him from her life. But now, he was standing between her and the only man who had ever made her feel safe. Jamal's stare burned into her. "Tell me the truth, Amara." And at that moment, Amara realized, no matter what she said, everything had already changed. The night was quiet. Too quiet. The cruise ship drifted over the dark waters, the gentle hum of the waves masking the storm brewing in Amara's heart. She couldn't sleep. The confrontation with Jamal still replayed in her mind, the coldness in his voice, the doubt in his eyes. But none of that mattered now. She still had Malik. He was all that mattered. She turned to check on him, expecting to see his tiny frame curled up under the soft blankets. But what she saw instead made her heart stop. The bed was empty. The sheets were crumpled, the pillow slightly pushed aside, but Malik was gone. Panic shot through her veins like fire. She rushed to the bathroom, her voice catching in her throat as she called his name. No answer. The closet. Under the bed. Every corner. Empty. The small window was still locked, untouched. He hadn't wandered off. Someone had taken him. A scream ripped through her chest, but no sound came. Her entire body shook as her mind tried to deny the truth. Then she saw it, a note. Folded neatly on the nightstand. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, unfolding the paper with breathless terror. He's mine. You know where to find me. Victor. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor. A gut-wrenching sob tore from her lips. Her worst nightmare had come true. Victor had taken Malik. Amara stumbled to her feet, her mind screaming, her heart racing. She needed help. There was only one person who had the power, the resources, the ability to fix this. Jamal. But as she reached his private suite, doubt clawed at her chest. He didn't trust her anymore. He thought she was a liar. A thief. Would he even believe her? Would he even care? She had no choice. She pounded on the door, her fist slamming with urgency. Jamal. Please. It's Malik, he's gone. Victor has him. Her voice cracked, raw with desperation. There was silence for what felt like eternity. Then the door swung open. Jamal stood there, shirtless, his broad chest rising and falling as he took in her wild eyes, her trembling body. His face was unreadable. What? His voice was calm, but she could see the flicker of something in his eyes. Tears streamed down her face as she gripped his arms. He took him, Jamal. Victor took my son. Please, please, I need your help. Jamal stared at her, the wheels turning in his mind. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to rush out and fix everything. But doubt still lingered. Then David stepped forward from inside the room, holding a tablet. Sir, you need to see this. Jamal took the tablet, his brows furrowing as he scrolled through the screen. His entire body went still. Amara stood frozen, afraid to breathe. Jamal's eyes darkened as he read through the files. Transactions. Fraud allegations. A setup. A lie. Victor had framed Amara for the corporate fraud. He had manipulated the system, made it look like she had stolen from the company. She had never taken a single cent. She had been running, not from guilt, but from him. Jamal's grip tightened around the tablet. His jaw clenched, and for the first time since the night began, his hesitation disappeared. He looked at Amara, his voice now steady. We're going to get him back. The cruise ship docked in Los Angeles just before dawn. The city's lights stretched into the distance, a glowing maze of high-rises and empty streets. Jamal's security team had already mobilized, tracking Victor's movements. He's at the harbor, David reported, eyes locked on his laptop. Looks like he's planning to leave by private boat before sunrise. Jamal's jaw tightened. We need to move. Now. Amara sat in the back seat of the black SUV, her hands clenched so tight they hurt. Her breath was shallow, her heart pounding. The thought of Malik in Victor's hands was unbearable. The car screeched to a stop near the dock. Jamal's men jumped out first, scanning the area, their earpieces crackling with updates. The salty air was thick with tension. Then they saw him. Victor Kane. Standing near the edge of the dock, a speedboat waiting behind him. And in front of him, Malik. The little boy stood still, eyes wide, his tiny hands clutching his teddy bear. Victor's fingers rested on his shoulder, a silent warning. Amara's vision blurred with rage. She surged forward, but Jamal caught her arm, pulling her back. Not yet, he murmured. His eyes locked onto Victor with a deadly intensity. Victor smirked. Well. Took you long enough? He pulled Malik closer. You know, Amara, you should have never run. He's my son. He belongs with me. Amara's chest heaved. He's not yours. He never was. Victor's smirk deepened. You know how this works. You come with me, or I take him. Jamal took a step forward, his voice dangerously calm. That's not going to happen. Victor's expression darkened. You really think you can stop me, billionaire? Money doesn't buy everything. Jamal's lips curled into a smirk. No. But power does. At that moment, his security team moved in. Guns drawn. A standoff. Victor's grip on Malik tightened. Amara couldn't take it. She couldn't stand back and watch any longer. With a sudden burst of strength, she lunged forward. Everything happened in slow motion. She threw herself between Victor and Malik, breaking his grip, pushing her son out of harm's way. Victor cursed, reaching for his gun, but Jamal was faster. A single shot rang out. The gun clattered to the ground, knocked from Victor's hands by one of Jamal's men. Victor staggered back, his face twisting in rage. Jamal stepped forward, his fists clenched. One swift punch landed square in Victor's jaw, sending him crashing to the ground. Sirens blared in the distance. The police arrived, their cars skidding to a stop. Officers swarmed the dock, guns drawn. Within seconds, Victor Kane was in handcuffs. Amara collapsed to her knees, pulling Malik into her arms, sobbing against his tiny shoulder. Jamal stepped toward her, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. She looked up at him, eyes filled with tears. You saved him. Jamal exhaled. You saved him. The weight of everything settled over them. The danger was over. Victor was gone. And for the first time in years, Amara was free. The sun shone brightly over Manhattan, casting golden light over the towering skyscrapers. The city was alive as always, cars honking, people rushing to work, the usual hum of life moving forward. But inside the high-rise offices of Adiwale Tech, something extraordinary was happening. Amara sat at her desk overlooking the breathtaking skyline. A nameplate with her title gleamed in front of her, Amara Okafor, Senior Financial Consultant. She still couldn't believe it. After everything, being hunted, being doubted, almost losing Malik, she was finally home. Jamal had done the impossible. He had cleared her name. He had used his resources, his power, and his influence to wipe away every false accusation Victor Kane had placed against her. He had proved to the board that she had never stolen from the company, that she had been framed. And when they saw the truth, they welcomed her back with open arms. She ran her fingers over the polished desk, a soft smile tugging at her lips. This wasn't just a job. It was a second chance at life. A tiny knock at the door broke her thoughts. She turned, and there he was. Malik. Her little boy stood in the doorway, holding a crayon drawing in his small hands. His face lit up the moment he saw her. Mommy! He ran toward her, throwing his arms around her waist. Amara laughed, hugging him tight. She looked past him and saw Jamal, leaning against the doorframe, watching them with a soft smile. He had picked Malik up from school, just like he had promised. Just like he had done every day for the past month. He stepped into the office, his presence commanding yet comforting. How's the first day back? Amara exhaled, shaking her head in disbelief. Surreal. Malik pulled away from her embrace, looking up at Jamal with wide, thoughtful eyes. And then, he said it. Dad. The word was so soft, so natural, yet it hit Jamal like a punch to the chest. Amara froze, her breath catching. Malik blinked innocently, as if he hadn't just shaken the very foundation of their world. Can we get ice cream, Dad? Jamal's throat tightened. He looked down at the little boy, at the small face that had once been filled with fear but now radiated safety and trust. Jamal had spent his life building an empire, making millions, sealing billion-dollar deals. But nothing, not a single success, compared to the way Malik's words made him feel. He crouched down, his voice thick with emotion. Yeah, buddy. Let's go get some ice cream. Malik cheered, running ahead toward the elevator. Jamal turned to Amara, his eyes locking onto hers. There was something new in them. Something unshakable. Love. Real. Unquestionable. Undeniable. He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. I love you, Amara. A shuddering breath left her lips. The words felt like a miracle. After everything, the fear, the betrayals, the loss, he had chosen to trust her. The grand ballroom of a luxury New York hotel was filled with laughter, music, and celebration. Guests clinked their glasses, offering toasts to the couple who had defied every odd. Amara wore a stunning silver gown, her fingers gently brushing over the engagement ring on her hand. Jamal stood beside her, looking more at peace than he ever had. They had won. They had made it. But then a waiter approached with a small envelope. For Mr. Adiwale, the man said politely. Jamal took the letter, his brows furrowing. Amara felt a strange unease creep over her. He opened it. And then everything changed. Inside was a single piece of paper. No signature. No sender. Just a few chilling words. Victor Kane was never working alone. You still have an enemy inside your company. And they're coming for you next. Jamal's fingers tightened around the note. Amara's heart pounded. Who? Who could it be? Jamal lifted his gaze, scanning the room, his instincts sharp. The guests still laughed and danced, unaware that somewhere among them, someone was plotting revenge. His jaw tightened. This wasn't over. Wow. That ending though. Just when you thought Amara and Jamal had finally found happiness, a mysterious letter reveals an even bigger danger. Who is still plotting revenge? Who is the secret enemy inside Jamal's company? What do you think will happen next? Drop your predictions in the comments. And hey, before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Like this video if you enjoyed the suspense, and share it with a friend who loves a good mystery. The next episode is going to be even crazier, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. See you in the next one.